4 years, fans dreamed of seeing them together on screen. The ever-charming Lee Min-ho, South Korea's eternal heartthrob, and the timelessly elegant Song Hye Kyo, who has captivated hearts from Autumn in My Heart to The Glory. But never in their wildest imaginations did fans think they'd witness a real-life romance between these two Hallyu giants. And yet, here we are. The rumors began as whispers in fashion circles. A glance exchanged at Paris Fashion Week. A shared laugh at a Bulgari after-party in Rome. But then came the photo, blurry yet unmistakable, of the two strolling side by side along the Seine under a pale gold sky, his hand gently resting on her back, hers slipping into his coat pocket. The world stopped. The internet exploded. And the truth unraveled like a cinematic masterpiece. It was early April when both Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo arrived in Paris for separate brand commitments. They were staying at different hotels, or so it seemed. But insiders now reveal that a secret meeting had already been arranged weeks prior by a mutual friend, a top Korean fashion editor who sensed a spark during a casual video call where both stars joined to promote an upcoming campaign. That first night, they met for dinner at Le Jules Verne, the iconic restaurant inside the Eiffel Tower. No entourage. No stylists. Just two legends of Korean entertainment, sharing wine and laughter with the city of love glowing beneath them. A waiter who served them confessed. It felt like a scene from a movie. They didn't need to say much. The way they looked at each other, it was magnetic. After Paris, both returned to Korea, separately. Song Hye Kyo was filming a fashion editorial in Jeju. Lee Min-ho was seen on the set of a rumored action drama. But behind the scenes, their romance deepened. Their secret hideaway, a luxury private villa tucked away in the forested hills of Gasping, known only to a few. It was here, surrounded by silence and nature, that the two would spend stolen weekends together. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled over the mountains, Song Hye Kyo stepped onto the wooden deck wrapped in a pale robe, her hair damp from a soak in the hot spring. Lee Min-ho handed her a cup of warm plum tea, his eyes searching hers. "You've always been someone I admired from afar," he said softly. "And now?" she asked teasingly. "Now? I'm afraid I might fall too hard." She smiled. "Then fall. I'll catch you." It was bound to happen. A tabloid journalist spotted them together at Incheon International Airport. He snapped a few rushed photos, Lee Min-ho in a hoodie, trailing behind Song Hye Kyo, who wore dark sunglasses and carried a beige tote. Though the pictures were inconclusive, rumors flared. Fans speculated wildly. Agencies denied everything. But it wasn't until Dispatch, Korea's notorious celebrity paparazzi outlet, released a set of time-stamped images showing the two entering the same private residence in Hanamdong that denials crumbled. Still, the stars remained silent. Until that press conference. At a luxury hotel in Gangnam, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo walked in, together. Hands linked. The crowd gasped. Journalists jumped to their feet. Flashbulbs erupted. Lee Min-ho stepped forward, smiled, and said, "We're not here to confirm rumors. We're here to tell you the truth." He turned to Hye Kyo, who looked radiant in a soft ivory gown. She nodded, then added, "We never expected this. We were friends. Then something changed. And now we're here, trusting you with our story." The room, normally buzzing with chaos, fell silent with awe. Since the announcement, the couple has kept a relatively low profile. But stories from those close to them have trickled out, and each one reads like a K-drama script. There was the night Min-ho surprised Hye Kyo on her birthday by renting out the rooftop of the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, lighting it with 1,000 floating lanterns that spelled out her name in Hangul. Or the winter getaway to Switzerland, where they skied in the Alps by day and watched old black-and-white Korean films by a fire each night. Or perhaps most touching of all, a quiet visit to an orphanage in Busan, where the couple donated anonymously, played with the children for hours, and left without fanfare. Their love, it seems, is both grand and grounded. Not everyone was supportive. Fans who once shipped them with other stars voiced outrage. Online forums debated their compatibility endlessly. But both Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo chose silence over conflict, peace over provocation. Then came the Vogue Korea cover shoot, the couple's first public campaign together. The images were spellbinding. Him in a tailored black suit. Her in a flowing crimson gown. Their chemistry, undeniable. The accompanying interview revealed everything fans hoped to hear. Lee Min-ho shared. She challenges me. She inspires me. And when I'm with her, I feel like I can be more than just an actor. I can be human. Song Hye Kyo said simply. He makes me laugh. Every single day. Wedding bells. No confirmations. Yet. But according to close sources, both families have already met in private. A ceremony in Jeju or abroad is rumored for the next year. For now, the couple seems content in their shared rhythm, reading scripts together, traveling in quiet, cooking in their Gapyeong home. And maybe that's the most beautiful part of it all. Behind the fame, behind the flashes and fantasy, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo found something real. A love that doesn't need to perform. It's rare to see two of the biggest stars in Asia fall for each other, off-screen. Rarer still to see them do so with grace, sincerity, and humility. But Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo are not just Korea's most celebrated actors anymore. They are, quite possibly, its most iconic couple. And while the world watches, hearts full, one thing is certain. This is one romance that deserves every season, and its own unforgettable soundtrack. The wind in Paris that April evening carried a certain magic, warm, mischievous, and impossible to ignore. It fluttered through the narrow cobblestone streets like a whisper, teasing the hem of Song Hye Kyo's cream silk coat as she stepped out of her black car onto the plaza beneath the Eiffel Tower. The driver discreetly nodded, pulling away as she adjusted her scarf and glanced up at the glittering iron marvel overhead. For a woman who had seen every corner of the world, this night still felt different. Unpredictable. Across the plaza, Lee Min-ho waited. Not a soul around them knew who they were. He wore a simple charcoal trench coat, no entourage, no assistant. When their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them, as if the universe itself had orchestrated this exact meeting. He smiled. She raised an eyebrow. "Wasn't sure you'd come," he said, stepping closer. "Neither was I," she replied. "But then, Paris." They walked side by side through a private entrance and into the dimly lit elevator that ascended into the heart of the Eiffel Tower. The city fell away beneath them in a shimmer of gold. For a few seconds, silence settled between them. Comfortable. Charged. Their destination, Le Jules Verne, a Michelin-starred restaurant tucked into the second level, booked under a discreet alias. Inside, everything was designed for intimacy. Crystal chandeliers cast glows onto linen-covered tables. The view stretched endlessly over the Seine and Montmartre in the distance. The world outside buzzed with tourists and life, but up here, they were suspended in a quiet reality of their own. At first, their talk was light. She told him about a recent script that felt too heavy. He laughed about trying, and failing, to cook his own ramen. They discussed books, photography, the way fame could sometimes feel like an elegant cage. But then something shifted. Over wine, a 1995 Chateau Margaux, and the restaurant's signature truffle-laced risotto, they began to peel away the masks they wore so well in public. "I always admired how you kept your dignity through everything," Lee Min-ho said, referring gently to Hye Kyo's very public divorce. "It made me think, there's still strength in silence." She looked at him for a long beat. Not the actor. Not the image. The man beneath it. "People forget we're human," she said. "But I think you understand that better than most." "I do now," he said, quietly. "Because I've spent a lot of time pretending I didn't care." Then he reached across the table, fingers brushing hers, not in a rehearsed gesture, but one that spoke volumes. After dinner, they exited the restaurant through a private back route. A soft drizzle had begun to fall over the city, misting the air with silver. She didn't mind. He took off his coat and placed it gently over her shoulders. They walked down to the Seine. The river flowed quietly beneath bridges that had witnessed centuries of love stories, rebellions, and goodbyes. "I always thought the Eiffel Tower was cliché," she said. "It is," he agreed. "But tonight, it's ours." They strolled beneath street lamps, his hand brushing against hers now and then, never too forward, never forced. Just two souls learning each other's rhythm. They paused at Pont Alexander III, the most ornate of Paris bridges, framed by golden cherubs and lanterns. Hye Kyo leaned on the rail, the city lights dancing in her eyes. "Tell me something true," she whispered. He turned to face her fully. "Okay." Then, after a breath, "I used to think falling in love again was dangerous. Too many expectations. Too many ghosts. But right now, with you, it doesn't feel scary. It feels inevitable." And in that instant, as the bells of Notre Dame echoed faintly in the distance, Song Hye Kyo smiled. Not the smile of an actress, not the polished grin for cameras, but something softer, unguarded. She stepped forward and rested her head lightly on his shoulder. "Inevitable," she repeated. "That's a word I can live with." It began to rain harder. He pulled her close and they ducked under an arched gateway, the space barely wide enough for two. Their laughter bounced off the stone, the intimacy of the moment wrapping around them like velvet. She turned to him, inches away. Their eyes locked. There was no need for music, no dramatic score. Just the pulse of the rain, the hush of the city, the sound of two hearts daring to believe that something extraordinary was happening. Slowly, cautiously, he leaned in. She didn't pull away. Their first kiss wasn't rushed. It was soft, reverent, like a vow whispered between them, sealed not with words but with breath and touch. And though there were no cameras, no scripts, no directors, this was the scene that would live forever in their memories. Later that night, he walked her back to her hotel. No grand declarations, no pressure. Just the warmth of something beginning. At the entrance, she turned to him. "You'll fly back tomorrow?" He nodded. "But I'll call you the moment I land." She hesitated, then smiled again. "Then this wasn't just Paris?" He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "This was the first page." As she disappeared into the lobby, Lee Min-ho stood still for a long while. The rain had stopped. But his heart, for the first time in years, was awake. The next morning, the tabloids missed everything. They reported on who wore what at Fashion Week, who was seen having brunch with whom. But they missed the story that mattered, the one that didn't need spotlights. Somewhere in Paris, a bell rang from a tiny cathedral. A pair of gloves, still damp from last night's rain, rested on a windowsill. And two people, in different hotel rooms, looked at their phones with the same quiet smile, waiting for the first message of many. Because what began in Paris wasn't just a night. It was a beginning neither of them saw coming, but both would remember forever.